there's a lovely thing, there is no success without failure. And it's so true. There are many people who get success and who get so full of themselves and they build this ego and it blinds them. And only you paid the price. The world is going to go on. Somebody else will fill those shoes. It's a choice.
You're watching Hustlr Stories with Ambika Anand. My guest today is designer Tarun Tahiliani. What does the word hustler mean to you?
Hustle means when you're just going to do what you have to do to get it done. You got to hustle, baby. That's a hustle. Hustle, jugaad, winging it, all these things, but you just did it because you loved it.
When you first found fashion and why did you want to be a part of it?
Now when I look back, I always loved something in fashion. In fact, it's so ironic. The first person I'm telling this, in my 11th or 12th year at school, I won the Best Artist Prize.
He was in Doon School, for those who don't know.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is it such a big deal? Anyway.
It is.
So anyway, at the Doon School, there was one person who was given the Best Artist Prize. And I used to draw these processions, probably barats, and the processions had beautiful drawings of men and women. And I was quite a good, I could illustrate quite well in that kind of way. And there'd be men and women, just beautiful clothes. And I don't know why, and my English teacher said to me, and he was brilliant, he said, congratulations, but where are you going to go? Where are you going to get in life drawing high fashion models? And I said, I don't know, I just like it, it just comes out of my hand. And then, of course, I came back, my parents wanted me to go to IIT and Harvard, and this was all this drama, so I ended up at Wharton. I didn't really love it. I was just doing it because I had to do it. There was no fashion industry. It was a textile industry. And then when we moved back and Sal came down, who is my wife, and she got clothes made in that Archana arcade. And I remember sitting at the Mehndi and she couldn't move her arms. She could only do this because there was no ease. And after the wedding, she took all her wedding clothes and threw them in the trash and I never want to wear this shit again in my life. And then a year later, we were also broke. So she was modeling for Vimal. She was the Vimal Sari model. And Rohit Khosla was styling the campaign and the talk started. And it was Haida. She said, we see such beautiful things abroad. Why are these not being sold in India? Why are we Indians 40 years after independence selling our breast produce to the white man? And we shop in export reject. They were called fashion streets, which basically meant all the export rejects or overruns. And at a very high level, beautiful things were being made. You could get them in Japan, you'd get them in London, you'd get them in Soho, New York. You couldn't for the love of it find it here. And so that became the idea of Ensemble, to give birth to something, to promote Indian design, to give Indian design pride, to pull designers, say, if you're designing for Western brands, come and do your Indian thing.
How was it like when you started?
Well, we were gradually going from a textile industry. My mother wore mostly saris, and she was a very modern woman. She was an engineer, she modeled, but she still wore mostly saris. For them, it was the sexy choli, the big backless thing, all that jazz. Men went to tailors. There was Chiragdin was one sari shop, but they wanted to use white models, so any trashy Farangi floating through this country would be made a model. We had a white aspiration. That's who we were. There had been socialism. Everyone wanted West. When The Bold and the Beautiful came on TV, everything would stop in urban India to watch it. We were highly isolated. And I remember these wonderful exhibitions would happen because there was a woman called Nilufa who came from Bhopal. They put thousands of outfits. And women would run in and try clothes over their clothes. Now you tell me, if you're going to try things over this, how the hell are you going to see fit?
That is true.
So it was very basic. There was one beautiful Ravison. There was one Beena Modi who did Obsession, Lalit Modi's mother. There were a few of these boutiques. But it changed fast because India, and that's what this India Today story said, which Sal picked up on. It said there's a new fashion consciousness and awareness building, and can't put your finger on it. But it's just one of those moments where the country is ready to explode into the next thing. And the younger generation didn't want to go to tailors and wear only shalwar kameez, and they wanted blue jeans, and from there they went into everything else.
What was your goal when you started in the 1980s?
Well, we just started to promote, it was 87 and 87, so literally towards the end of the decade, to show beautiful Indian things in a way that they deserve to be seen. In fact, people would come in and say, my God, the store is so empty. It's empty. And we say, no, this is the right way you should see merchandise. Because everyone's eye was like going to Jewelry Bazaar and seeing 1,000 things crammed in. How can you tell? Things will get ruined. Everything side to side mistakes. So there was no concept of VM. There was no concept of space. Luxury is space. Luxury is not having the most expensive material. Luxury is being able to see it and to see what works for you. I mean, that's the whole retail experience. Running in to grab at an exhibition, it was then. Most women don't want to do it now. So it had to change into ready-made clothing. It needed to change into retail that supported ready-made clothing, fittings, alterations. It was a different world.
Take us through some of your biggest challenges and how did you come out of them?
Well, my biggest challenge was that I didn't know anything. So, I might have, I think, had some taste and I might have been able to draw something and say, Isko yahan laga. But my biggest challenge was that then I was at the mercy of whoever did it. We didn't even have dress form. There was a thin, tall peon who was very sweet, whose uncle had worked in the building as a sweeper. And Khempal worked with us, and we'd put the kurtas on Khempal and said, Abhi chalo. And we'd be on the floor and he'd walk up and down the room.
How would you describe your design ethos?
My design ethos, I think, is very, it's old world. I still like to work with fabrics and swatches. Sorry, that's the only reason I'm sorry you never came there, but we'd have been stuck. Because I have mood boards, I know what I'm doing. I'm building stories, I'm building the prints, I start to sketch. We will sketch shapes and they will be made by the pattern makers and a model will come in and we will do a fitting of the toiles on a model. Can you sit? Can you lift your arm? Hey, do you need to put more fabric here? Because, today everything goes because everyone has these sports bras. That doesn't exist till recently. And it's still not chic past the point. A garment should be entire to itself. So that's how we work.
So you just spoke about the lows and some difficulties and some opportunities you didn't take. Take us through the lows and how did you come out of them?
Well, let's say I went to a show in Milan. The show was a sensation. We had every editor. We were in all the top stores, but we hadn't thought about the back end. So to suddenly get an order of 600 finely made chicken shirts and dresses, I don't think we did them well enough. By the second season, the store won't carry you, right?
Any other kind of lows you can take us through and how you kind of
I think when you start so late and it's already competitive because, competition is related to the size of the market. Today, the market might be here and there might be 1,000 people. At that time, I might have been here, but there must have been 7 people or 10 or whatever it is. I think the biggest low is self-doubt when you started so late and you just flung in and you're looked at as the top. I suffer from the imposter syndrome. I always felt like an imposter, not anymore. But I just didn't feel that, for the attention I got, that I just felt uncomfortable because how was I even worthy of it, For someone like me who's not been so comfortable with this whole Bollywood thing, and then there are obvious times when someone's getting a lot of attention and you think, did I do the right thing? But finally, you got to listen to your voice.
Over such a long career, you must have had so many highs and so many lows. Take us through some of the highs.
Well, the first high which made me feel odd was when we just started and it just got so much attention and everybody knew it. We did these wonderful shows in the beginning. They were done for Ensemble. But they were, thousands of people banging at the gates trying to get in. There was no Instagram, there was nothing. People loved them. It was fantastic, Then I did my first solo show in '95. Going to school was a high. Doing the first solo show went super well. My God, we blitzed out in the sales the next day. These were highs because I didn't expect it. I didn't even know who these people were, I didn't know who the Mittals were and this. We were clueless. I mean, I grew up at boarding school and Navy and studied abroad. Then on and on, we did some big things abroad. We did, opening your first store. After a point, you kind of zone out. It's not about highs. The high is doing something well. Big high was that parade and the book launch because it was so mad, but it all came together in my mad head. And my friends who worked on it, Gautam Kalra and Apu were exactly able, Meher opening it to translate it. It was something beautiful. And the whole thing about India modern, having the sadhus walk with the models and the Kathiawadi men walk with the Kutchi clothes, that's what inspires me. So to bring that to life and articulate it was wonderful. And we're going to do our first museum show. And that's a big high for me because we're going back not to just put pretty things out there. We're talking about drape and sculpture, antiquities. And so it also challenges us, it challenges the studio to think about it and to think about what we do and why we do. And it gives it a different purpose than just making clothes and making money.
What are your thoughts about risk in business?
Anything's a risk. You cross the road, it's a risk. You take a flight, it's a risk. I mean, risk is there. So if you sit again in India modern and study our own scriptures and the Gita, and you just get detached. As you get older, you get detached. Anything can happen. Give it your best. Who knows what's going to happen tomorrow?
In your experience, has there ever been a moment when you believed in yourself and no one else did and you found success? Can you share that moment with us?
I felt this when I watched the parade because for years they would say to me, like, what is this draping? What are these dhotis you are inspired by? What is this? What is this? But they were seeing it in isolation. And when I put it together, the structured drape, the concept sari and where it is today, it's not that people didn't, no one's that bothered, But I just kept going at it, season after season, and they'd say, your sampling bill is 10% of company turnover, you're crazy, they'd shout. And I'd say, I know, I need to be more disciplined, I know. But it's all coming together, now it all makes sense.
If you had to do it all over again, is there anything you would do differently?
I would have gone first to design school. I would have studied for 3-4 years. I would have gone to work with either Galliano or Donna Karan, people who draped and did the modern thing. And then when I was ready, I'd have gone to the cliff and say, okay, I'm ready to jump, but now I already have a point of view.
How do you stay on top of your game and relevant with each collection?
I'm interested in India. I'm interested in shape. Because you have to be, there are designers who do wonderful embroideries, but their shapes are kind of little off the mark now, skidding into some kind of fantasia, which is also fine. There's a market for everything. I'm interested in a contemporary life, and a contemporary life has to be about lifestyle now. If you're going to wear a slip dress with a bit of embroidery, well, then I can't just keep giving you an anarkali to the floor and say, why don't you wear it in the day, because you ain't going to wear it. So in today's world, when particularly you Indian women, you can wear a sari one day, you can be in an evening gown one day, you can be a sharara, you can be Jodha Akbar in a lehenga, the next day you can be in Victoria Beckham. You have all the choices, and to stay relevant in fashion, you have to be in the now. You have to look at, I love the past, I love museums, I love sculpture because I'll get an idea from something and tie it into a current drape, but it's about today. You'll have to live today's life. So that's the most important thing about staying relevant, and I'm excited by it. I'm engaged by it. I'm going next week to Bhuj and then to Ahmedabad and then I'm going to Jodhpur, and I'm going to be clicking people, all the older people, because the younger people aren't dressed like that, and they will go into walls where I will look at and Monday drape, but it is for you to wear today.
What do the new crop of designers have that you and your contemporaries did not have?
I think they start with knowledge, because most of them have worked with people. So someone like Asim worked with me for 14 years and was able to go very focused into what he wanted. His voice was developed. They have a huge range of contacts that we didn't have because they worked in the industry. They've earned it. They also, I think, have possibly grown up in a fashion universe that didn't exist when we were there. I mean, there were boutiques, sari shops. So the world changed and we had to change while we learned. They're in a world that exists and they're jumping in.
And vice versa, what did you and your contemporaries have that the new crop of designers don't have?
Innocence. We had innocence. We worked in a much smaller universe, so the risks weren't so high. And it wasn't this, what could be overwhelming universe as it exists today. We just started. It was fun. We were able to respond to our souls and, indulgence.
What does success mean to you today?
the freedom to do what you love. It's only that.
Thank you so much for your time.
My pleasure. It's always a pleasure to talk to you.
Thank you.